The mailbox betrayal. A shattered piece, the scent of sun-dried linen, crisp and clean from the clothesline in my backyard, usually signaled the perfect culmination of a peaceful morning. I loved the quiet rhythm of those days, the feeling of competent control over my small sanctuary. But that Tuesday, the gentle hum of the neighborhood was brutally interrupted not by a sound, but by a paper. Tucked amongst the usual bills was an official HOA envelope, stark white and unforgiving. My initial calm fractured the moment I saw its bold letterhead. Inside, the type was dense, formal, and threatening. A notice alleging a non-compliant garden ornament. My gnome, Barnaby, who had resided peacefully by the rosebush for years, was now deemed an egregious violation. The accompanying fine was astronomical, complete with a terrifying mention of escalating penalties and, ultimately, a potential property lien. The sheer audacity of it, a bogus charge threatening the very home I'd meticulously built, felt like a deliberate blow to my quiet confidence. That single piece of paper, delivered right to my door, had just declared war on my peace, the stillness after the storm. Resolution. Not revenge, the initial tremors had subsided, leaving a profound quiet in their wake. My home, usually a place of busy energy, offered an unexpected sanctuary of stillness. Instead of succumbing to the panic or anger I might have felt, a different kind of calm began to settle over me, precise and unyielding. I walked through the rooms, the silence a canvas for a burgeoning resolve. This wasn't about bitterness. It was about balance. I decided then that my path forward would be one of resolution, not mere revenge. The goal was to reclaim what was unjustly taken, particularly regarding that egregious fine. It felt like a steadying breath before a long, deliberate dive. My sanctuary, their cage, a history of overreach before the final letter landed. Before the true battle began, my home had always been my fortress, a quiet haven I'd meticulously crafted over a decade. It was meant to be a sanctuary, a place where the noise of the world faded beyond the fence I'd painted myself. Yet the seeds of conflict had been sown long ago, in a series of minor, almost absurd skirmishes with the HOA. They began subtly. A notice about a bird feeder deemed non-compliant, a letter referencing an unapproved shade of exterior trim, or a demand to trim a tree that was perfectly healthy, merely too tall by their arbitrary measure. Each instance felt like a mosquito bite, irritating but easily swatted away. We paid the occasional ambiguous $50 or $75 fine, often without truly understanding the infraction or the rationale, simply to avoid the mounting hassle of disputes. It was easier, we thought, to appease than to fight. But these small concessions, these quiet surrenders, had subtly built a framework of control, slowly transforming my sanctuary into a bureaucratic cage. The dream of personal freedom within my own walls was quietly eroded by their escalating pattern of overreach, a clear prelude to the audacious attack that was now upon us. They had established leverage through our silence. It was time to break it. The blueprint of recourse. Strategy declared. The latest HOA notice didn't spark anger in me, but a quiet, unshakable clarity. I resolved to fight back. Not with the futile shouts of frustration common in these disputes, but with precision and an arsenal of undeniable facts. My blueprint for recourse was rooted in meticulous documentation, systematically dismantling their actions, far beyond emotional pleas or public theatrics. This wasn't about winning an argument. It was about exposing procedural flaws through quiet, data-driven analysis and legal acumen. Have you ever felt similarly powerless against a faceless organization? Share your thoughts below on how you navigated it. My first step was a comprehensive audit, compiling every past communication and rule into a searchable archive. The quiet assembly of evidence. Unearthing the truth. The quiet after the initial shock wasn't empty. It was a canvas for meticulous assembly. My first step was not to react, but to understand. I spent weeks immersed in public records, pulling every accessible document. HOA bylaws, 3 years of meeting minutes, and property deeds. Each request at the county office came with a processing fee and a mandatory waiting period. A small friction I accepted. The HOA projected unshakable authority and procedural rigor, but my private investigation unearthed glaring inconsistencies. I cross-referenced current bylaws against older versions, specifically noting a 2008 amendment. This subtle yet critical change altered the voting threshold for significant financial decisions, an oversight they clearly missed. This rendered their recent unilateral fee increase entirely illegitimate, a clear violation confirmed by an initial legal consultation that, though costly, provided invaluable clarity. The paper trail, painstakingly collected, now pointed exactly where I had needed to go. The unveiling of leverage, the first ripple. The shrill demands for compliance had filled my inbox for weeks, but my response wasn't a panicked phone call or an email plea. Instead, on a Tuesday morning, a thick, discreetly branded envelope was dispatched via certified mail to the HOA's management office. Inside wasn't an apology, but a comprehensive rebuttal, a 50-page document meticulously cross-referencing their bylaws, state property statutes, and previous board minutes, all buttressed by a concise legal opinion from a respected firm specializing in property law. They had anticipated passive acquiescence, yet received an ironclad declaration of my rights and their overreach. The ensuing silence was immediate and profound. No follow-up calls, no further belligerent emails. It was a vacuum where their bluster once resided, the first undeniable ripple across their placid assumption of control, signaling their surprise and the effectiveness of my preparation. This quiet wasn't the end of a battle. It was the calm before a much larger reckoning. The unraveling threads. Escalation and countermove there. First volley was predictable. A barrage of cease and desist letters and thinly veiled injunction threats designed for procedural delays. I met their bluster not with emotion, but with surgical precision, each reply coolly dissecting their rhetoric, exposing inconsistency. Their lawyer, Mr. Thorne, eventually asserted the retroactive application of a newly adopted bylaw regarding external structural modifications, a familiar but fatally flawed attempt to bypass established protocol. It hinted at desperation, but also their predictable reliance on intimidation. My certified mail response meticulously cited State Statute 302B, subsection 14, and Harris v's White Oaks, HOA, 2018, a precedent directly negating their claim. The sudden quiet from their camp, after weeks of relentless noise, was the first true fissure in their unified front. This pause, I knew, was simply them regrouping. The boardroom recalibration. A firm stand the HOA boardroom. Once anxious, felt different, entering with precision. Not a plea. Mr. Henderson, presiding, offered a dismissive glance, expecting to swiftly reject my appeal of their unjust fine. My presentation was irrefutable. I laid out time-stamped photos, vendor receipts, and specific bylaw articles, dismantling their accusation. Their confident bluster dissolved into silence as undeniable facts replaced assumptions. Interruptions met my unwavering gaze. This room, previously their domain, now hosted my quiet, dignified triumph. The vote, a strained formality, led to the chairman's reluctant retraction. The fine was dropped. The gavel's tap solidified more than a victory. It reasserted my true peace and control over my home. A new foundation, a stronger community, collective change. My personal victory secured, a deeper quiet settled an invitation for collective action. My focus broadened from individual redress to reforming the HOA structure itself. We initiated bylaws revisions, mandating quarterly financial transparency reports accessible to residents, a stark contrast to the previous board's opaque budgets. Instead of dictated decisions, we established an open dialogue forum and clear grievance process, fostering participation. This shifted us from an oppressive, rigid regime towards a truly equitable community. What steps have you taken to protect your home or community from overreach? Share your success stories. Our collective future would be built on transparency, not silence. My home, my rules, within reason. The empowered future. The silence in my home these days isn't just an absence of noise. It's a palpable presence, a quiet power that echoes the calm finally restored within me. I remember when the hum of the refrigerator felt like a threat, and every notification on my phone signaled another encroachment. Now, the natural sounds of my space, the gentle creak of old floorboards, the distant laughter from children next door are simply part of the rhythm of a life I built, a peace I earned. My journey was never about revenge, but about reclamation. I've transitioned from someone who felt imposed upon, constantly reacting to others' agendas, to an individual who actively sculpts her own landscape. This home, once a battlefield, is now a sanctuary, its boundaries defined not by fear, but by a quiet, unshakable confidence. I am no longer just living here. I am truly dwelling here, fully present and fully sovereign. This ownership extends beyond these four walls. My vigilance isn't born of lingering bitterness, but of an understanding that true self-possession requires ongoing engagement. I participate in community matters, not to counter old foes, but to contribute to a shared future, ensuring fairness and respect remain the cornerstones of our collective space. This is a subtle, yet profound shift, from defending my perimeter to actively shaping the terrain around it. They tried to define my home. I redefined their power, and in doing so, my own.